Okay, so sorry, we just had some technical difficulties, but next speaker is Dawn Knight from Cardiff University, and you've got the mic on.
Yep, I have. Okay, thanks for the invitation to talk today, Mo. I'm going to keep this fairly brief. It's just like a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I can't normally say that, but I did it today, of just some of the projects that we've been working on at Cardiff. Quite a lot of collaborative projects in this sort of space that connects with the topic of today. And a little bit about the end there about future opportunities. So it's kind of it's a call for future participation as well for anybody in the room to get involved in some of the ideas and to help us kind of take things forward as well. So I'm not going to talk in a lot of detail about the specifics of some of the things that we've built, because I know that there's colleagues who will be talking later this afternoon as well. But the slides themselves, I'll make them available. There's lots of links on there, so you can have a look at some of the resources that we built. Okay, bit of context then. So I'm also not an NLP person. So I think we've front-loaded all of us. So I'm more on the user end of sort of things. So I'm an applied linguist, a corpus linguist. I do a lot of multidisciplinary sort of cross-institutional work, collaborative projects. But I'm the one that thinks about the end user a lot. So I'm play around with things and try to break them a lot as well. I haven't touched anything. But yeah, I can break things. And lots of the sort of things that I do, it's kind of questioning language use and things about language use in real life, really. So the kind of corpus sort of end, it's that sort of traditional sense of corpus linguistics. What is naturalistic? And asking interesting questions about how people interact in different sorts of context. So you can see that there, understanding language use in real life. And quite a lot of the work I've worked on thinks about how we develop different frameworks or approaches to questioning language use. And that involves designing different sorts of tools for that sort of thing, which is why I've worked with people in NLP. Just the thing at the end, lots of support from UKRI and the Welsh Government, so big thanks to that, because without them we wouldn't be able to do any of the work. So, in terms of the actual project, so we've worked quite recently. Well, I say recent, it's nearly 10 years now, so it's not that recent, getting whiter. Since getting to Cardiff, worked on quite a lot of bilingual and Welsh language projects specifically, and working towards the Welsh Government's sort of language technology action plan to promote Welsh language technology and coding resources. So building things, but making them available to everybody, and getting more people involved in creating resources, sharing resources, and talking about language use, and asking questions about language use. Okay, so that's the sort of context. Okay, where it all began. A few of you, hopefully quite a few of you, are aware of CORCENC, which is the National Corpus Contemporary Welsh, which is a project that we completed during COVID, which never tried to complete a project during COVID. It was pretty tricky, but we got there in the end. There are, as I say, links. I'm not going to click it because I will break things. But there's a website, you click on corcenc.org, corcenc.cymru, and you can go straight to the website which has the corpus on it. And the original vision for this, and quite a lot of people in the room actually worked on this project, including Gareth, who collected lots of the data for us and helped design the sampling frame. So it's great to see you again, Gareth. So there are lots of people that worked on this. And what we had in terms of the original vision was to create a... Oh, hang on, I've missed a slide. Nope, it's a slightly different order. To create a large-scale, freely available corpus of the Welsh language that was built in a very principled way. Okay, so the original design was to collect written, digital, but also spoken language as well, which was manually sort of manually collected from individual speakers. So everything, with explicit permission provided. We also aim to create a semantic tagger of Welsh, working with Paul Rayson and colleagues here, and create part of speech tagger as well to go with this. Test the idea of community crowdsourcing via an app for data collection as well. We can talk about whether that worked well or some things that we learned from that as well. But also a pedagogic toolkit. So the idea behind that was not only to create a corpus for linguists, lexicographers, people working in NLP and so on to use, but also to take it directly into the classroom. So taking that idea of data-driven learning, so we can use a corpus, we can create kind of learning resources or ways that people can interact with it, and that's a kind of direct way into it. So using it as a teaching and learning tool as well. to build capacity in applied linguistics research in Welsh in Wales as well, was kind of the aim. And this is what we ended up in terms of the data set. So people in NLP probably think this is quite small, but as something that was manually collected in terms of every single last word, it's, I think, quite sizable, and we're quite proud of what we collected. In terms of, as I say, it's principled, it includes lots of different genres, including different genres across different speech contexts, so broadcast, professional, educational, and so on. And it's just over 11 million words. Okay, and this is just a snapshot of the sorts of demographics of the speakers and contributors. Okay, again, I can make this available. The data has been also manually anonymized, so lots of hard work went into this. I'm trying to emphasize that. I don't know if you've got the point. Took quite a long time. And everything is tagged in terms of parts of speech and the semantic categories as well. And all of this makes it kind of searchable. But we've made all the resources available via a GitHub site so other people can use them and adapt them as well. We worked with Lawrence Anthony, who of AntConc fame, to create the current version of the query tools. And you can, there's a snapshot or a screenshot there. As all the sort of, this is the through an English interface here, but it's obviously available in Welsh. And you can just see we try to make it as intuitive and user-friendly as possible, but with lots of, at the top there, you can see the metadata sort of area. Lots of metadata included about all the sort of demographic information, the things about register, and so on as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can do queries of this. You can obviously query in terms of parts of speech and semantics categorization as well. Okay, so that's, and it's got, keyword and context, collocation, options, frequency lists and keywords and so on. Anyway, so if you want to learn more, a couple of books, fabulous, website, have a look, GitHub, access some of the tools. So that was the starting point. There was a slide on here, and I don't know where it's gone, it's missing, of collaborators. So I'm going to put that up, if I can find it, I'll put it up at the end. And it's a whole screen of people. And it's a big thanks to those people, but you can't see them. But imagine they're there, okay? And people from lots of sort of companies and other sort of beneficiaries as well in Wales as well. So big thanks to all of those. I don't know where it's gone. But CorkEnc is now kind of existing as a bit of a hub and spoke model. Terrible sort of image here, but hopefully you get the idea. From CorkEnc, we then progressed to build Gervan, which is a word list. So we thought, okay, we've built this resource, let's try and get people to use it. As I say, obvious users could be academics, could be lexicographers, but we were thinking, how else do we get other people to use it beyond that? It took quite a lot of time, keep referencing that, to build. So how do we make best use of this resource? So the first thing that we did was work with the National Centre for Learning Welsh to think about word lists. So to look at their curriculum as it was, and to look at their vocabulary lists that they use for A1 and A2 speakers of Welsh, or learners of Welsh, and to say, based on corpus evidence, can we think about whether this word list is appropriate? And we did a kind of project working together, not just corpus-based, but to rethink those word lists, and they're using them now. So all of the current curriculum is based on some of the information from CorkEnc. One of the RAs also then started to build a website, which is still in development, but it's kind of using the frequency lists as a kind of point of reference for learning more about language. In addition to that, we also received some Welsh Government funding to build NLP resources. And you'll see how quickly I gloss over these in terms, no, I'm joking. In terms of if you want to know about the kind of nuts and bolts of these, we can discuss this afterwards, particularly with some of the colleagues in here who've been using them recently. Some projects led by Irena Spasic included the creation of a Welsh WordNet, some word embeddings, and a Welsh Stemmer project as well. Okay, and also working with colleagues in the room on developing a text summarization tool. Okay, so that's kind of using some things like the the word embeddings to actually develop this as well. Also, we worked with John Morris up there on the creation of a thesaurus for Welsh as well. And more recently, on actually bringing some of these utilities together. So again, this idea was, so these sorts of things at the top are very useful for people in NLP and for creation of other sort of linguistic resources, using some of the learnings that we had from Corkenk as well and so on. With this tool here, it was more about how can we kind of engage other types of users. So maybe the general public, people that are non-experts, non-techie people, how do we make some of these resources, some of the knowledge that we have, meaningful to them? So we thought of the idea of free text, which I think Nooran will be demoing later. But just to say, what does free text do? Well, it brings together some of the utilities that we, again, created with other projects. So the n-gram word frequency stuff, keyword and context, part of speech, things in purple, basically, from Corkenk. Summarization tool, and some visualizations. We kind of put them all together, included some sentiment analysis as well to create this new toolkit. And the toolkit is basically to allow anybody to come along with their data and do some analysis of qualitative data. Okay, so basically the sort of premise is, in most kind of walks of life, we are always requested to fill in surveys, aren't we? And you get the couple of questions at the end which say, any other comments? I discovered, do I admit to that? No. I thought that, you know, there are some contexts where that little bit at the end gets ignored. Because, you know, how do we cope with that? How do we tackle that? Particularly if you've got lots of respondents and if you're sat somewhere in administration with all this data and you don't know how to analyse that, sometimes it gets kind of cast aside. It's quite tricky to deal with, particularly if you're in a bilingual context as well and you don't necessarily have the linguistic skills in order to actually analyse both in English and in Welsh. So this is what this allows you to do. Okay, without being an expert, you can just upload your data or paste your data in and do some meaningful analysis. It has a language recognizer, so if you've got bilingual data, it will basically separate the English and the Welsh and treat the Welsh as Welsh and use all the kind of Welsh language tools for the analysis, and then the same with English, and you get meaningful analysis of both. We've been working with Museums Wales, National Trust Wales, CADU, and some others on constructing this. And it was a great project, actually. It was a 12-month project of kind of co-creation. And we've tried to make it as intuitive as possible. And they are using it. So that's quite good. So again, this is our kind of first step into public sort of uses of corpus-based tools. And it also allows, particularly for them, to say to the public, we are listening. We're listening in both languages as well. So please give us more data, which is a good kind of point for discussion. So that's how they all fit together, and I can't remember what the next slide is. Yes. So, because we have all of these really useful resources, we have the latest initiative is the creation of the Welsh Digital Grid. This is a website which basically brings everything together, okay? And we're trying to make a one-stop shop for kind of the NLP tools we've created, but also kind of reference tools and tools for, I am going to click it. Let's see, there we go. Reference tools, but also for analysing and exploring elements of language use as well. And you see all the kind of credited of all the people that have been involved. And yeah, everything is available on here. I've showed you the English version of the website. But there we go. So, yep. You can access it all there, and this is all in development, but thanks to the Welsh Government for funding this initiative as well. And as time goes on, we're hoping to have more activity in this sort of area and kind of bring these resources together. I think that's it.
Thanks a lot. One question. Yes.
Thank you very much. I was impressed by the resources that you're doing for Welsh, and also I know that my colleagues are doing a lot of work on NLP with you. I wanted to ask you, in terms of corpora, obviously this was the beginning of your presentation. Are there any parallel corpora where Welsh is involved, maybe apart from English and Welsh? Because parallel corpora are very useful for different NLP application, and specifically, I have another question, whether you have comparable corpora where in Welsh, because comparable corpora have emerged as very useful resource for different NLP applications. So parallel corpora and comparable corpora within Welsh or with other language?
Am I allowed to deflect that question to somebody else on your table?
I'll be brushing on one of the.
Yep.
I'll be brushing on one of the resources that we have, where we have translation memories from translation
Introduce
companies.
yourself, because I know you, but no.
Sorry. I'm Griffith Price. I'm the head of the Language Technologies Unit at Bangor University. I can probably cover that in my slides in a second, really, to give you a chance to ask another question.
Yeah.
Comparable corpora would probably be Wikipedia, would be a good source of that.
Thanks, Griff. Definitely more the NLP side, so looking forward to your talk.
I'll just add something to that as well. It's a project that I recently got involved in, which is ICC, International Comparable Corpus Project. And yeah, so if you've already got data that you're allowed to share, you could sample it and add it to this, and then it's the design and specification of the corpus rather than the content that's comparable. So it's people don't upload translations of the other texts, just similar genres and registers. And yeah, if you already have some of the data, it could be a great avenue for generating this kind of a sort of a free win, if such a thing really exists.
Have you heard about that project?
No, not well.
We can have a chat about it. So
Yeah, I'll send on the details as
cool.
well.
Yeah, Mark Kubietz, whom you probably know,
yeah.
is leading it now. And
There have been several projects like Accurate, which was carried out and released, which automatically generates comparable corpora. We have done something in my previous research. But one can generate comparable corpora automatically.
cool.
Thanks a lot.
Any other questions about these? And you can ask, there's Nuran and other colleagues as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.